They expected a locked cabin. They found an empty wall. When HMS Argus docked in Plymouth on December 9, 1799, the boarding officer followed routine. Inspect crew, verify cargo, clear the ship. But something didn't line up. A second-class sailor had filed a private note before arrival. "There's a cabin starboard middeck we weren't allowed to enter. No one saw it used, but I heard someone inside." There was no such cabin listed, but the lock was there. Heavy, naval issued. Paint matched the ship. Hinges real. Keyhole aligned. They broke it open, but behind the door, no cabin. Just a continuous plank wall. Solid, seamless. And on the floor, a single crate. No markings, no latches. Tied with cloth, not rope. And when they lifted the cloth, they found a symbol burned into the wood. A horizontal line through a black circle. Not Navy, not merchant, not from Halifax, where Argus had departed. The official boarding report noted, "Object recovered from false partition. No record of such a space in blueprint. Captain claims no knowledge." It was the third ship that year where the same symbol was found. 17 days earlier, Argus left Halifax with 16 men, standard supplies, and one scheduled convoy. The Ferris, a grain ship bound for Lisbon. The night before departure, a man arrived at the dock. Clean boots, coat in Royal Navy style, but no insignia. He spoke to no one, handed the captain a small folded paper, and pointed to one crate beside him on the dock. He did not speak. He did not board with the others. But in the morning, he was there. Mid-journey, the captain noted his presence only once in the logbook. Passenger not listed on manifest. Lodged forward hold. Claims orders from Admiralty. Refuses meals. That same entry was later crossed out in charcoal. When interviewed in Plymouth, the captain, Charles Redding, could not explain. "I remember him, but not his boarding, not his name, not how we passed the last 2 days at sea." There were 13 cargo units loaded in Halifax. Barrels, cloth, salted pork, a small shipment of gunpowder. But crate number 14 appeared only in the quartermaster's private log, not in the cargo manifest. The entry was brief. Crate 14, handled separately. No destination given. Stored near unused cabin bulkhead. Instructed not to open or move. And that unused cabin? There was no floor plan match. Argus had no record of construction in that section. Naval engineers examined it after docking. The wood was the same, but they found no beams behind the wall, only a thin space 8 inches wide, then the outer hull. No door could exist there, and yet the lock was mounted, real, bolted, opened only once. The Plymouth Port Authority contacted Halifax for confirmation. They asked, who authorized the crate? What was inside? Why was it tied in cloth instead of sealed? Halifax responded, no such crate listed, no such man authorized. Argus departed with standard cargo, no deviation. But they included a photo sketch of the dock that morning. And there he was, the unknown man, standing with the crate, not looking at the ship, looking at the harbor. He had no luggage, no tag, no name on his coat. The only thing in the sketch that stood out? The symbol on the crate was already burned in, before loading. While cleaning the ship 3 days later, a deckhand found something inside the starboard water barrel. A scrap of cloth, soaked and sunk to the bottom. When dried, it matched the same fabric used to wrap crate 14. But stitched into the corner, barely visible under salt water, were the initials, MHS. F. Cross-checking the crew list revealed no match. No dock worker. No registered military personnel with those initials logged in that port on that day. But a search through older merchant records revealed something else. A Captain M.H. Fallow had once sailed a sister ship to Argus, lost in 1793 in nearly the same route. His ship's last manifest? 14 crates. The last marked with the same symbol. That wreck was never recovered. They pulled the interior paneling apart. Carefully. Quietly. What they found wasn't broken wood or hidden compartments. They found nothing. Behind where the sealed cabin stood was just raw airspace. A 1-foot hollow gap, then the ship's outer hull. No room for a door. No structural support for a room. No framework. Just a false facade nailed over ribs that weren't meant to hold anything. The engineers from the naval yard examined it 3 times. The result was the same. This section was never built to contain a cabin. No access, no plans, and no reason for a door. But the lock was official. The hinges real. Even the plank that had looked like a door, it was sawn and placed later. Different grain pattern, newer cut. Someone had added it. Not at the dock. Mid-sea. A copy of Argus's original 1795 construction blueprints was pulled from the Royal Dockyard Archives. Comparing it to current deck scans revealed something that disturbed Arlo and the rest of the inspection team. One additional board, about 3 feet wide, had been nailed into the outer shell after the ship left Halifax. It wasn't there on departure. The Halifax launch report had documented hull details as routine procedure, but now it was there, freshly painted, new wood, no tool marks found on board, no spare lumber listed. Someone had added the section from inside the ship. The mysterious crate, the one tied in cloth and burned with the circle line symbol, was sent to Portsmouth for review. They couldn't open it. There was no visible seam, no hinges, no nail line. But the weight suggested something dense inside. And inside the cloth, along the underside of the box, someone had scratched 3 lines of text in faint graphite. Faded, barely legible. But when enhanced and rewritten, the message read, "Report listed. Transfer accepted. Delay was expected." There was no name, no date, but the word accepted was underlined twice. At this point, the name Fallow reappeared. A naval archivist in Chatham contacted the Plymouth team. In a backlog of unprocessed logs from 1793, a partial distress report was found from the Cormorant, the ship captained by M.H. Fallow, the man whose initials matched the cloth. The report had never been completed. It ended mid-sentence. "We have carried all 14 as instructed. One has since..." That was all. Pages after were missing. But in the top right corner of the last page was that same symbol, circle with a horizontal line, drawn in faded red ink. It had appeared 6 years earlier in the same region of the Atlantic, on a different ship, with the same number of crates. And both times, the ship came back, but something didn't line up. Lieutenant Griggs, a mid-ranking officer aboard Argus, was scheduled to give testimony the day after the inspection. He never arrived. A note was found on his bunk, no signature. If it was never supposed to be on board, why does it know how to leave? His uniform was gone, but no one saw him disembark. The guard on duty said he never left the quarters, and the ship was locked from the inside. His ledger remained behind. Inside it, a diagram of the ship's mid-deck, and a box drawn in red charcoal over the false cabin area. Next to it, he had written one word, Again.